Well, good morning, everyone, and let me begin by thanking Rodney Green for inviting me to participate in this very important meeting, and I'm delighted to be on the Howard University campus again and hope that these remarks might contribute to our understanding of this issue and take us farther ahead in addressing the topic that we will discuss today. Now, let me say this parenthetically. I'm an old university professor programmed for 50 minutes, and anything less than that is cruel and unusual punishment, but I will do my best to stay within the 20 minutes that I've been given to make these introductory remarks. Let me begin by saying that we meet in this summit today as the economy continues a painfully slow recovery from the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. But that is not the topic we have been brought here to discuss today. We're not here to discuss the economic outlook. Our focus is on the economic status of the African American community. And I will address racial inequality in American economic life. It is broad, it is deep, and it is persistent. Now, African Americans have a relationship with the American economy similar to the caboose on the train. When the train speeds up, the caboose speeds up. When the train slows down, so does the caboose. But in the natural order of things, the caboose never catches up with the engine. Racial inequality is reflected in every measure of economic activity, but in the interest of time, I will focus on employment, income, and wealth. The current population survey first collected labor force data by race 40 years ago. Since that time until now, the black unemployment rate has remained consistently twice the unemployment rate of white workers. It was 14% in December 2012 and has fluctuated near that level for the last 2 years. The white unemployment rate has remained at less than half that level over the same period of time. The gap in the unemployment rate narrows and widens somewhat depending upon the rate of job creation, but the gap never disappears or moves toward the equilibrium point of parity. Black youth unemployment also has a long record of racial disparity. In fact, the black youth unemployment rate has been at or above 20% for 27 of the last 29 years, and has hovered near 40% for the last 2 years. In contrast, the white unemployment rate, youth, is typically less than half the rate among black youth and has not exceeded 20% in the last 2 years. The median income of black families, now about $35,000, has not been higher than 61% of white family income since the data were first collected by race. That means black families have never had more than $6 for every $10 held by white families, a disparity that was much wider before 1960. Much has been said about the great leap forward for the black middle class. Well, let's look at the evidence on the black-white income distribution. While 16% of all white families had an annual income of less than $25,000 in 2009, more than twice that ratio, 32% of black families were in that income category. At the other end of the distribution, there were 1.8 million white families with annual income of $250,000 or more. In contrast, only 82,000 black families, less than 1% of all black families, had annual income of $250,000 or more in 2009. Stated differently, while African Americans were 12% of all American families, they accounted for less than 4% of families with an annual income of $250,000 or more. The disparity in income has a major impact on the accumulation and preservation of wealth. A widely cited study by the Pew Research Center revealed that between 2007, and 2010, a period that includes the collapse of financial markets and the steep economic downturn, black net worth, the measure of wealth, declined more than 50% to about $5,400, while white net worth declined much less to $116,000. Let me repeat that. The net worth or wealth of black families today is about $5,400 compared with $116,000 for white families. So the disparity in wealth is vastly greater than the disparity in income between the black and white communities. Let me say very quickly that since the dawn of freedom with the Emancipation Proclamation 150 years ago, African Americans and their allies have worked long and hard to gain economic security for black people and to eliminate racial inequality. But as the evidence shows, the efforts have met with limited success. It's important to note that the persistence of racial inequality not only burdens millions of black families, it also imposes a significant cost on the nation's economy. In 1962, the President's Council of Economic Advisors conducted a study of the cost of discrimination. Using a conservative estimating model, the CEA concluded that discrimination cost the economy 3.6% of GNP. That measure was later changed to gross domestic product rather than gross national product. In 1995, my mentor, professor, and friend, the late Andrew F. Brimmer, recalculated the cost of discrimination using a broader measure than the CEA and released his findings in a report edited by Dr. Margaret Sims and published by the Joint Center for Political and Economic Studies. Brimmer reported that despite wider opportunities and changed attitudes that emerged after the overt discrimination was outlawed by the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the cost of discrimination remained unchanged, hovering at between 3 and 4% of GDP. We meet today on the first day of the annual celebration of Black History Month. I'll note that when the great historian Carter G. Woodson, a member of the faculty of this university, introduced the celebration, it was Black History Week. But apparently the powers that be thought we had so much to celebrate, they changed the week to a month. But wouldn't you know, they gave us the shortest month of the year. We just celebrated the annual recognition of Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday. Because of serendipitous timing and historic circumstances, the Martin Luther King celebration coincided with the second inauguration of the nation's first African-American president. That confluence of events concentrates our mind on a critical question. What should we expect from the African-American president regarding racial inequality in American economic life? Let me take you back to May 1965, when the President of the United States delivered the commencement address on this campus. I was privileged to be in the audience on that day, and I recall the President speaking the following words. He said, "You can't keep a man in chains for 200 years, remove the chains, bring him to the starting line, tell him to run the race, and think you are being fair." 3 months later, President Lyndon B. Johnson issued Executive Order 10925, which created the Office of Federal Contract Compliance Programs in the Department of Labor to beef up enforcement of affirmative action by companies doing business with the federal government. Is it unreasonable to expect President Barack Obama to find his voice, summon his courage, and use some of his political capital to help eliminate racial inequality in economic life? I ask that question as an early, strong supporter of Barack Obama. I was part of a group in Philadelphia that organized a major fundraiser for then Senator Obama 3 months after he announced his candidacy for the Democratic nomination to run for president. I ran and was elected an Obama delegate to the Democratic National Convention in Denver. Moreover, I have supported the president's economic and foreign policy agenda since he took office. I do not regret any of those actions, but I believe now is the time for the president to find his voice, summon his courage, and use some of his political capital to eliminate racial inequality in American economic life. We know he is not president of Black America. He's the president of the United States of America, and we are proud of that. But asserting that a rising tide lifts all votes is not enough. A rising tide won't lift all boats. It does nothing for the shipwrecks stuck at the bottom of the sea. To return to the original analogy, we need policies that help move the caboose closer to the engine of the train. Now, I believe the policies we need rest on a three-legged stool. One leg of the stool is achievement of full employment, not full employment defined as the non-accelerating inflation rate of unemployment. We need full employment defined as a job for every individual willing and able to work. And we must recognize that full employment won't be achieved solely by expanding private sector employment. We must allow for government to act not only as the employer of last resort, but the employer of first resort for socially redeeming purposes that won't be pursued by the private sector. The achievement of full employment will require policies that increase GDP growth and job creation, policies that support stable, balanced growth. The second leg of the stool is policies that prepare and protect the full participation of African Americans in all sectors of the American economy. That includes not only employment, but also business development, business ownership, wealth accumulation, and preservation. There is a wide range of policies that will achieve that goal. Such policies should be developed and consistently implemented with a view toward eliminating racial disparities in the economy. Finally, the third leg of the stool is targeting federal investment to people and communities in greatest need. That is the most economically efficient and effective way to deploy limited federal spending. Let me be clear. Nothing in this statement suggests racial exclusionary policies, quotas, or anything of the like. I'm suggesting policies that will strengthen the economy, increase GDP, improve income distribution, and contribute to stable, balanced growth. Policies that benefit all Americans while eliminating racial disparities in economic life. We know how to do that. Where there is a will, there's a way. Now, there's an old Talmudic proverb that says, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. We know where we are. We know where we want to go. That is to eliminate racial inequality in American economic life. Now, let me say, because my time is up, I just had a message here from the moderator, that what I'm talking about is not just increasing employment, increasing this or increasing that. When that train moves ahead, we're the caboose on the train. When things get better, of course things get better for us. That is not the goal toward which we should direct our attention. The goal toward which we should direct our attention is to eliminate the racial inequality, the economic disparities in American economic life, and we can do that. The train is at the station. It's time to get on board and start that train moving toward the journey of equal opportunity in American economic life. There will be a time, and we should come to it very quickly, when the promise of America, when the practice of America matches the promise of America. That is the set of policies we need to put in place. We can do it. We need to do it. We need to get to it. And we need to do it now. Thank you very much.